And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, what a interesting week number 6 we just had in the NFL season. A lot of upsets we just had this past week, and we saw now going into week number 7 a nice slate we have going into this week 7. A couple of notable games up to mind. Another London game upcoming this weekend. Hopefully, it's a lot better than the London game we just had this past weekend. I know for yourself you were laughing about that game, but we'll go into that a little bit more detail. But hey, for you and I, it's both a nice week for us. Can't believe I'm
How did
saying
you
that.
did you enjoy your victory Monday?
I enjoyed my victory Thursday or
Well,
Friday.
I guess then we can go straight into it now.
Yeah, let's talk about that Thursday night game last week. It's almost, it feels like a week ago, but I keep
It is a week
reliving that.
ago.
Yeah, but I keep reliving that game in my mind since then. It's probably the proudest I've been, watching this team play. I'm not ever going to go back to when they won the wild card game against the Vikings. It's been a while since they've had a game like this where, the offense looked good. The defense showed some flashes that we haven't seen in a long time. And the Giants make an absolute statement in this game. This is coming off the fact that they lost that game against the Saints that previous Sunday. The Eagles had just lost in a really bad fashion to the Broncos. And the Giants pull off an absolute statement win, biggest statement win they've had in years. Big second half. And it was led by their two young, promising rookies, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo. Monster games for both of them. The defense, as I mentioned, was big. Brian Burns had a couple sacks. Cordell Flott had a huge interception that really derailed the Eagles' chance of coming back. And yeah, Johnson, the Giants get the big win. And for the Eagles now, it's back-to-back losses. They are starting to look a little bit concerning these last couple of games that they've been in. Tough game upcoming this weekend. And, who's to say what's going to happen the next couple of weeks because the trade deadline's also approaching as well. So for teams like these two teams, the Giants, they might be thinking of trying to add people to try to maybe keep this momentum going. And for Philadelphia, they might have to try to add people just to, try to get the locker room, in the right mind and state because, as I mentioned, these last two games have been really, really bad for them.
Yeah, let's talk about the Eagles here for a second. They're 4-2, have lost the last couple games here. But they've had the hardest schedule in the NFL up until this point. So I don't think you kind of pump the brakes just a tiny bit here. Now, with that being said, no offense, Nick, it's not acceptable to lose to the Giants in prime.
Oh, no, I was expecting a bad game. After they lost to the Saints, I was expecting a bad loss.
So that's where the concern comes. But they've had the hardest schedule sometimes. Maybe they're a little banged up. I'm not really sure. But you don't hit the eject button just yet if you're the Eagles. You let this play out a couple weeks because now you can get really tested. If you take a look at their upcoming schedule, they're going to play the Chiefs in a couple weeks, and they're kind of peaking right now. They're going to play the Vikings this Sunday, I believe. I think the Eagles are. Yeah. Then they're going back to the Giants, so they have to win at home against the Giants. In my opinion, this is a must-win, and the Giants game is a must-win. But if you drop games to the Packers and the Lions, I mean, it's not great. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. It's also not the end of the world here.
Yeah,
they're two good teams. You want to have. I don't want to say you don't want to have any losses, but if you lose, you want to lose to good teams. You don't want to be. No offense, losing to teams like the Giants. You don't want to lose to a team like the Broncos, right? Because the Broncos are kind of mediocre,
right? The Broncos are like, we'll talk about that in a few moments. I think the reason that if I'm an Eagles fan, I'd be concerned is because of how they lost this game. Because it was back and forth in the first half. The second half was all the Giants. The Eagles had some bad turnovers, bad special teams. Defense could not stop the run game of Cam Scatterbo. Dart was making some really good plays. I think it's really that's why I'm concerned because you didn't look anything remotely close of the defending Super Bowl champion from the year prior. Your defense looked really bad. It got to the point, Johnson, where the Giants' offensive line was playing a lot better than the Eagles' offensive line, which is saying something considering how these offensive lines have been the last decade. That's, I think, the most concerning thing. I know they didn't have Jalen Carter on the defensive side of the ball, so that definitely does hurt. But this is still an Eagles defense that brought back a good amount of people from last season, and they just did not look the part in this game whatsoever. They were pretty much dominated from almost start to finish on the defensive side of the ball, and then the offensive side of the ball. Just some bad plays, mostly in the second half, really hurt them in this game.
Yeah, it did not help them at all. Like you said, the first half was back and forth, but then that second half was all Giants. And Cam Scatterbill, I'm pretty sure he had more backflips than Jalen Hurts had touchdowns this game.
It's possible, yeah. Yeah, Hurts did have that one rushing touchdown on the after four straight tush pushes, which I'm sure a lot of people liked. But yeah, this is where this was type the flashes that you saw from Scadaboo from last season when he was at Arizona State. And I mentioned it when, we did our draft recap that I was really happy with the Giants getting him because that was one of the guys I was hoping they would get in the mid-round picks. And to get him in the third round was a monster get for us. And, having him and Tracy is a nice 1-2 punch. And it's big because, you lost Malik Neighbors. They needed someone to really be that bell cow running back in this offense with your star wide receiver out for the season. So this is a big win. As I mentioned, it's the biggest win they've had in probably over a decade, maybe even plus. So we'll see where they go from here. I think the biggest thing now for the season is can Jackson Dart keep this up, which is what you're hoping for, because if that does happen, then if you're Brian Dable and Joe Shane, you're gonna be good throughout the rest of the season, and you'll be moving on to next year as the coach and GM respectively.
You know what also was a big game, Nick? London had that big game feel.
Was it really a big game though?
Oh, it was a massive game for the New York Jets.
Oh my god.
Now, let's
I
talk about negative passing yards from the first
yeah.
quarter. Let's talk about safeties. Could have been the game winning, the game sealing, the points that sealed the game, for a lack of better words right now.
Yeah.
Field goals. One offensive touchdown the first 5 minutes of the game, and then nothing from there.
Yeah, I got to the
So,
point where there were really no
oh,
highlights from this game.
oh wait, there are tons of highlights. Actually, there's so many highlights. There are actually 9 really big highlights on the Jets' offensive line.
Yeah. 9 sacks for the Broncos defense. Yeah, their defense is insane. That's why, as a Giants fan, having to face them on Sunday, that's gonna be it's gonna be a tough game for
It'd be a
them.
real test for your offensive line. Right,
Definitely
this
a big
game.
test for their
Let me tell
offensive
you.
line. But yeah, Denver did not look good in this game. That's coming up the big win against the Eagles. I mentioned it a few minutes ago. They really struggled offensively in this game for a lot of things. A couple bad turnovers, some mishaps on the offensive side. They kept the Jets in this game, and for the Jets, for their sake, they just I don't know what's going on with their offense. I mentioned last week they were showing sights of maybe they could get things going and rolling and could finally get that first win. And then they just do a complete 180 and they pull off this game where you, the listeners at home, would have had more passing yards than the Jets had on Sunday. -10 net passing yards the Jets had at the end of that game. I don't know. Again, this is also an offensive line unit that I was saying, you know what? It's not bad on paper. They looked actually somewhat decent, but the first couple weeks of the season, they look like hot trash in this game. And now there's talks of maybe benching Justin Fields for Tyrod Taylor, which if you're having that conversation, you're already looking, obviously you're 0-6 now. You're already looking towards next season, but it's really bad if, you go from, all right, Justin Fields doesn't look the worst. Maybe we could salvage a year out of him and then look in the draft to now, oh, we're going to be starting Tyrod Taylor now at this point. So, yeah, let's see what quarterback we're taking with the number 1 overall pick because that's where the Jets are heading right now. It's really bad.
And no offense, this isn't really a quarterback class you want to do that with.
No, this is not the class. I think right now Mendoza from Indiana is right now the projected number 1 overall pick.
It's not Sellers anymore?
It was Sellers. I think it really comes down to how the season's going to end in college. Because right now the momentum's going towards Mendoza in Indiana.
Of course. He's hot right now. Indiana's one of the premier programs in the country at this moment, and Lenore Sellers in South Carolina down to their luck. But
right,
this is all kind of hearsay until April, and you see you see the combine results, and you get actual feels and the interviews and the. I think they're gonna have. Yeah,
I think the rumor is it's Mendoza, Sellers, and Ty Simpson right now are the projected top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. And depending on how they all finish the season, that's going to probably relay down to who goes number 1 overall. Right
And
now,
hey, Mendoza looks like an old style
Mendoza.
quarterback.
Right? Yeah,
Like
you never know.
five passing touchdowns against Illinois was one of the most. It was one of the funniest things I've seen. Listen, he's done that before to like worse schools, but like against a Power Five school or Power Four school, that means a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a former Ivy League quarterback too, so Jets have had experience with
Mendoza,
that before. Yeah,
I thought he went to Cal.
he did, but he was with I believe Yale before that.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay. I knew he transferred in from Cal, but okay.
Yep. Yep. So he's an experienced quarterback. Jets have had have had a high Ivy League quarterback before. Almost got into a playoff spot. Um, but I don't even need to remind them about that. What happened at the end of the season with that
Can you
season?
remind me about that? I actually forgot.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, threw 5 picks at the end of the season, and they lost to
Oh, that's
Buffalo.
right. That's right. It
Yeah,
wasn't one, not two,
I think it was
not
5.
three, not four, but five.
Yeah, Jets Owens. I really don't have much to say about this game. Jets look terrible. That if you want to really if you want a description for how this game was, just watch the end of the first half of the Jets drive because it's the most mind-boggling end of the first half I've ever seen from an offense. They literally stood at center, pretty much near midfield at the end of the first half with an opportunity to throw a Hail Mary pass to at least get something, maybe. And instead, they just let the clock run out and went to halftime. And now Garrett Wilson's hurt. Brees Hall's probably going to get traded. It's just all a mess right now for this team. It's really bad. You thought last year was bad with Rodgers. This is even worse.
It's a season of dreams and nightmares. Dreams if you are a
Yeah,
Patriots,
you're
Bills,
happy
or
about this right
Dolphins
now.
fan, and it's a nightmare if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah,
So,
you are very happy about this.
no comment.
Yeah. Let's go to our next game, though, Johnson. Let's maybe get the taste out of our mouth from that ugly game. How about this game between the Niners and the Buccaneers? The Niners' injuries are starting to really get to them right now. They're getting a little bit healthier going into this upcoming weekend, but they lose Fred Warner in this game to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay does lose Emeka Ibuka also in this game, so both teams dealing with a well amount of injuries right now on both sides of the ball. But Tampa Bay is able to get the job done in this game to go to now 5-1 on the season. They win 30-19. And right now, Johnson, if you're up to me, I don't have a vote, obviously. You don't have a vote either. But if we had a vote for MVP, I think you might agree with me. I think it's got to be Baker Mayfield with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
amount
Baker
of stuff he's
Mayfield's
been
cool,
doing.
but what about Drake May?
All right. Well,
Listen,
sure. But
in all seriousness, it is Baker Mayfield right now. He's playing with his sixth string wide receiver and his third string running back and his third string
yeah.
tight end, and he just keeps on producing. So, like, you can't really deny the talent at this point.
Like
He's
Mac
having a
Jones looked good in this
fantastic
game
year.
again, too. Give him credit for what he did. But we'll see what happens. Brock Purdy, I think, is going to be returning this upcoming weekend. If he does play bad, that might create some controversy of who starts. They're going to get George Kittle back, which is a huge plus. They might get back Ricky Pearsall, but he didn't practice today, so we'll see about that. Yeah, San Francisco just, losing your best 2 defensive players for the season is really bad. They lost Bosa earlier in the year. Now they lose Fred Warner. It's going to get to the point where how much more injuries can you really overcome and get to a certain spot in the season where you could potentially make the playoffs? They're going to have to be very active at the deadline if I'm them, try to maybe salvage the season. And for Tampa Bay, I think right now, you could get Mike Evans back this weekend. Maybe you get Godwin back too. If they don't, then they got a tough matchup on Monday against Detroit where they're going to be down to, as you mentioned, their fourth string, fifth string wide receivers, where it gets to the point where I think Sterling Shepard is wide receiver 1 going into that game. So it just goes to show you what Baker Mayfield's doing with this unit he has right now. But you have to commend what they're doing so far.
All right, and then we can skip the Sunday night game. Nothing happened in the Sunday night game.
We'll talk about it a little bit. I mean, Mahomes is looking good. You have to admit that, no?
That's great. He's
I
supposed to
know,
be playing like this.
I know. But here's the thing. I think the scary thing about this, though, is that they're getting Rashee Rice back, too, this upcoming week. So that's going to be big for them. Their offense is firing on all cylinders, too. This game was weird because Detroit, I think, had so many chances. I think the only thing that maybe you might agree on that ties into what you've been saying for a couple years now with this team is the penalties were a big factor in this game because it cost Detroit a couple of points, and the Chiefs did not get penalized once in this game either. So I'll leave it at that. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
any comment on that.
no penalties in 60 minutes of football. Nothing. They played perfect football. It happens. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it definitely happened. Maybe not this game, but it's happened before.
I'll tell you right now, this could very well motivate Detroit in their next upcoming game. That's why I'm scared for Tampa Bay because they're riding a nice high right now, and despite all the injuries, they're doing great. Detroit's probably going to be pissed off after what happened in this game, and you saw what happened at the end of the game with these teams. I think the most notable thing from this game was Brian Branch and Juju Smith-Schuster getting into an altercation, and Brian Branch is now suspended for this upcoming week. So
It's not Juju.
yeah,
It's not
it's not
Juju. It's
Juju.
Brian Branch.
Well, Brian Branch did start it.
Yeah, listen, I know he started, and I totally agree. But if this was any other team, they'd both be getting suspended right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Listen, it doesn't matter if Marshawn Lattimore or Mike Evans started; they both get thrown out of the game. That's how it always was.
well, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, the Chiefs are looking good right now. I think Mahomes is in that MVP conversation too with Baker Mayfield. I think he has to be. Um, I know you don't want to probably agree with that, but the Chiefs are just they're playing fine. I think everyone was a little bit worried after what happened against Jacksonville this past Monday or the previous Monday, but they're still looking fine on paper. They're still the 3-3. They're one game out of the division. We'll see where they go from here. They got the Raiders on coming
Yeah, but
Sunday,
why are
so
we
they should get the
celebrating
win.
mediocrity right now? That's what I'm
I'm
trying
not.
to figure out. I'm not saying
I'm
you're
not.
celebrating it,
Yeah,
but in general, people are celebrating. Oh yeah, the Chiefs are back. They're whatever. They're free and they're 500. You're celebrating a 500 football team like they've won the Super Bowl.
I think the weirdest. Remember what happened last year with this team. Remember how many one-score games they were in, and they won every single one-score game. I think they were 10 and
Yeah,
0.
and I said it was an anomaly, and
They're always
it
3
wouldn't
in
happen
one-score
again.
games this year. So that just goes to show you that they're still in those games, but they're not winning it so far this year.
Yeah, you're gonna regress to the mean eventually. That's what
Right.
that's what it really boils down to.
I think for them, just beat the Raiders, and then I'm looking at their schedule. I think you said earlier they have the Eagles upcoming. Obviously, the game with the Raiders they should win. Commanders is going to be a fun game on Monday Night Football. Then that big game at Buffalo, and then they go to Denver, home game against the Colts. After the Raiders, their next 4 games are very, very interesting. So that's where I'm looking to see where this team goes from here after this Vegas game because they should win. If they don't win, then yikes. That's all I can say about that. The Raiders are really bad. They got a head coach fired at least. Brian Callahan no longer with the
Yeah,
Titans.
no longer with the Titans. As soon as
Probably that
I won't say anything.
I do have a stat about that. Did you know the last 3 rookie quarterbacks taken number 1 overall have had their head coach fired in the rookie season?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah. Caleb Williams had his head coach fired. Why am I blanking on the quarterback before that? I should know. I should know who the number 1 pick was before Caleb Williams. I had the stat too. I saw it a couple days ago, and I lost it. I'll get back to it. Let's go to the first of 2 Monday night games, Johnson. Let's talk about that big win for Atlanta. How about the Falcons defense? They're really improved from what we've seen over the past decade or two. They showed out against Buffalo and they get a monster win to now go to 3-2 in the season.
Yeah, I would have never guessed this in a million years. And now this is the team that you panic on because Buffalo Bills have had the easiest schedule in the league so far, and they've lost 2 games. They no longer have the division lead. That belongs to the New England Patriots. And here we are in the middle of October football, and Buffalo is this season is slipping away.
Yeah, I mean, they go into this upcoming bye week now no longer in first place. It's the first time since, I think, 2019 that someone other than Buffalo was in first place?
No, I think I think Mac Jones did it too in
Or is that
2021.
or
Or
is that the
2020.
last time the Patriots had for No, I thought it was 2019 with the Patriots.
No. The
It
Patriots
wasn't?
have Mac. At one point during the year, I'm pretty sure the Patriots had
Oh,
first place in the
I
AFC
I, I
East.
I found the stat. It was Bryce Young. I apologize for not remembering that. So Bryce Young's first year, Frank Reich was fired. Caleb Williams last year, Matt Eberflus was fired, and now Cam Ward this year, Brian Callahan. So there's that stat from before. But Yeah, I gotta look that up. I thought for certain that the last time that the Bills were in first was when New England had it in 2019.
I could have sworn it was 2021. In the beginning of the season, the Patriots started off
I
hot. If you
thought
remember,
so
they had an
too,
easy
but
schedule.
yeah, I thought so too. Hold on, let me look real quick. I might be able to find it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Patriots sit in first place in the AFC East for the first time since 2021.
There we go. I know I wasn't that crazy.
It's the first time. Okay, this is the stat I saw. They're in first place in the AFC East after 6 weeks into the season for the first time since 2019.
There we go.
That's what the
After
stat
six
was.
weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Glad we got that out of the way. But we got to talk about the Falcons. I think they're starting to finally get to where we're seeing. I mean, let's talk about this game for them. Bijan Robinson is unbelievable. 170 yards rushing, insane game for him. Drake London, 158 yards receiving. I mean, this is where we've been talking about this Falcons unit for how many years now in terms of potential. Penix looked fine. Like he's really bounced back ever since that Carolina game. And they're evolving Bijan a lot more. They're evolving Drake London a lot more. And their offense is looking good, but their defense has really been the biggest story so far this season. This is one of the most improved units we've seen all year, in my opinion, defensively. They're getting to the quarterback. Josh Allen was under duress a lot of this game. He threw 2 interceptions. Like this defense is really making some noise so far for this team, and they've got a really good shot of being of maybe overtaking the Buccaneers at some point this season for that NFC South title.
I would pump the brakes just a tiny bit there. Uh, Again, it's still early on. We're a
Still
third of
early.
the way through the
They
season.
beat San Francisco this week. I think
Yeah, I think we could have the
we can get into that.
conversation if Tampa Bay loses and if they win. You could have the conversation. Right
Okay,
now, the
that's fair.
gap's just a little bit too wide.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Any more comments you have about this game? I know for Buffalo, obviously not. We'll see how they respond after the bye week, but yeah, they haven't looked really good the last couple weeks, so that's a
No, they
bit
haven't looked
concerning.
good, and I've said it a million times. They don't really have a wide receiver one, and I said early on that Stephon Diggs really helped Josh Allen early in Buffalo. If you remember 4 or 5 years ago when Stephon Diggs first got there, he really he really lit a fire under Josh Allen. And now if Khalil Shakir and you really have a band of misfit toys over there, he's not thrown to anybody. He could even get 200 passing yards. Trust me, I know. I had him in a parlay. He couldn't even get 200 passing yards, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, you had a very
Very unfortunate. I needed 50 yards from Josh Allen. That's all I needed. Or I think another 21 yards, whatever it was, and he couldn't
I
get that.
I
So,
was very grateful
unfortunate.
for Drake London's heroics. I told you in advance what I needed for him in that game to win in fantasy, and it was him and DeAndre Swift. I think I needed like 39 points, and Drake London alone almost
Yeah, they
pretty
did
much
it.
did it
They
himself.
definitely did it.
So yeah, they definitely did it. And speaking of DeAndre Swift, let's go to the that second of Monday night game that night between the Bears and the Commanders. And Johnson, the Bears get their revenge from last season's Hail Mary loss. They beat the Commanders on a last second field goal, 25-24. I didn't notice this, but this is the second straight game that the Bears have played in that they've won by the final score of 25-24. So I don't remember that ever happening. I think I heard this stat earlier. It's been a very long time since the teams won by the same margin of 1 point in like decades. But Caleb Williams, for the most part of this game, had some good throws. DeAndre Swift was pretty much the story of this game for the Bears offense. Amazing performance, 108 yards rushing, a big 55-yard receiving touchdown to put the Bears within two. But another big story of this game, unfortunately for the Commanders, was their turnovers. 3 fumbles. Daniels throws a red zone interception. Commanders pretty much had this game won late in the fourth quarter, but their third fumble on the night on a 3rd-and-1 run put the Bears with the ball with 3 minutes left. They went down the field, got themselves in the field goal positioning. And for Jake Moody, who's had a very struggling NFL career start after getting drafted by the Niners, he gets cut earlier this season. He kicks the game winner. It gives the Bears a much needed win to now go to 3-2 in the season.
What do you do now if you're a Bears fan? Because this was a win that was kind of gifted to you. So, what do you
Yeah,
do
you're
here?
happy.
Like, you
You
you, you
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 just
just
you
stay
take it.
happy, or
Yeah, you might as well. Listen, you're gonna
all right? Listen, because
if you beat the Saints, which you should, you're at home for that game. You go to 4-2, And then the next couple weeks is going to be where this team depends on, because you're going to be facing a Ravens team that's probably going to have Lamar Jackson back for that game. You're going to face the Bengals, who have been, we'll see how they are with Flacco in the next couple weeks. They looked okay this past weekend against Green Bay. The Giants play anything like they did on Thursday night, that's going to be a tough game. Then they have the Vikings. So that's their next
Because
5 games they have.
even though on paper Caleb Williams looks like he's doing good, he's really not lighting the world on fire.
It's
Uh,
nothing flashy, but
here's the
he's
thing, because
making
that
safe
Dallas
and efficient
defense
throws.
was so bad, it
Yeah,
really just blew up the rest of his stats. He had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. If you take that away on the season, he has less than 900 yards in 4 games. So he's averaging about 220 yards a game, maybe even a little bit less, and 1 touchdown a game. So like pedestrian numbers right there. And again, they have a really bad defense. They're not great. They're giving up 30 plus points on the regular. They've given up pretty much, I think, 30 plus to every team besides the Jets and the Eagles week 1.
right.
So Caleb still has a lot to be tested for. So these next couple of games, I think, is going to be the true test. I know they're playing the Saints, like you said, but at least the defense on the Saints is okay.
Yeah, it's not the
Like
worst.
it's going to be that's at least one of the, I don't want to say one of the redeeming things about that team, but uh, we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks with Caleb Williams. Check in with me in the middle of November. See how he's
Now,
doing.
what about Washington for their side of things? Because now they dropped
They
the
made a
3 and
stupid
3.
fumble. They played a good
Right.
game. They made a stupid fumble, and
Weather definitely was a
hope that
factor in
doesn't
this
happen.
game.
You hope that doesn't happen again. That's all you got to really hope
Here,
for. If you
here's
want.
why I'm worried about Washington, because look at, I don't know if you've seen what their next 4 games are. It's really, really tough. They're at Dallas, which could be a shootout for all we know. I think it's going to be a shootout. It probably is a spoiler for the mushing hour. Then they go to Kansas City on Monday Night Football. They then have the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football, and then they have Detroit for the primetime game on the 4 o'clock slate. So those next 4 games are really tough. So that's where I'm wondering, how does this team respond after a loss like this? Can they bounce back now? I think Sunday's going to be a big, big, thing to see, because can they bounce back from this tough loss and get a win over a Dallas defense, as you just mentioned, that has been awful all season so far.
Yeah, it certainly will be a sight to see. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm looking forward to another big week of NFL action, Johnson. It's time for our next part of our show, which is, of course, the mushing hour. And
Oh, how could I forget?
do you want to bring up what happened last
No,
week?
no,
No, not at all.
I'm good.
Yeah, let's just say Johnson and I had combined 2 wins, and I might have had both wins.
Yeah, it's been a season for
Happens.
me. Like I said, college
Happens.
has been great. I'm 10 games over
College, you've
500.
been,
NFL,
yeah,
exact
awesome.
opposite.
Yeah, awesome in college. Um, but this is a new week. New week. Let's get back on track this week.
New week,
And
new
let's
me. Let's do it.
exactly, new week, new you. And let's start off with that Thursday night game this upcoming week. Steelers at the Bengals. The Steelers on the road, a 5.5 point favorite, 44.5 the over under.
Give me Bengals plus 5.5 here. I like the way they've been playing with Joe Flacco. I think they could at least cover here. The Steelers' offense really isn't that great. And maybe it's a weird divisional game on a Thursday. That's kind of my logic behind the pick.
Well, look, if and that's a great point, because look at what just happened last week on Thursday with a weird divisional game. You had the Eagles and the Giants, and the Giants beat the Eagles by 17 points. I'm not saying the Bengals are going to win this game, but I agree with you. I think they're going to keep this closer than a lot of people expect. I got the Bengals plus 5.5 as well in this game. I think Flacco just provides a little bit more of a dynamic that can at least keep them in this game with the Steelers compared to a guy like Jake Browning. I think Flacco just gives you more opportunity. Look at what their offense did on Sunday. Jamar Chase had his best game since Burrow went down with the injury in week 2. So if they continue to keep that offense going with Chase and company, they'll give the Steelers a run for their money, and they might be able to pull off what I think a lot of people would consider to be an upset on Thursday night. So I'm with you on the Bengals plus 5.5 as well. What do we have our next game?
We have the Rams versus the Jaguars in London, where the Jaguars are a three
Oh,
and a half
great.
point dog. So that means the Rams are 3.5 point favorites. The over under slate at 44.5. Give me Jags plus 3.5 because I seem to back the way in the games, and I'm not ready to pick against them yet, even though Trevor Lawrence is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league.
Well, keep in mind the biggest story for this game is, of course, Puka Nakua's injury status. It doesn't look like,
Doubtful.
yeah, it doesn't
But
look like
I
he's
think
going
if
to
he
play
came
this week.
back and played last week, I think he'll play this week. That's my logic.
Well, he didn't practice today, so that does give me a little bit of concern. I think they have to find out by Friday. You'll know the injury status by then. Um, I would tend to think they probably will bench him and give him the week off because you have the bye week the next week too, so he'll get 2 weeks of rest. But the Rams still have a good team despite that. They have a solid receiving core despite it, and their running game is going to be great as well. But I'm with you on Jaguars as well. I'm going to take the Jaguars plus 3.5. This is essentially a home game for them. I know it seems crazy to think that's a home game in London, but they play in London every single season, so it has to basically be a home game for this team at this point. Um, yeah, I'm curious to see how they bounce back because they had that bad loss against the Seahawks where their offense just looked really bad in that game. And I'm curious to see how they bounce back against another tough defense. Can they keep this game close and at least give the Rams a tough run for their money? I think they can. So I'm going to give them the 3.5 as well in that game in London early Sunday morning. Now, let's go to the rest of the Sunday slate. We start off with the Eagles at the Vikings. Potential Carson Wentz Bowl if he does play in this game. Eagles are a 1.5 point favorite on the road, 43.5 the over under.
Give me Vikings plus 1.5 here. Let's see. JJ is not cleared for the game yet. He's not the guaranteed starter, but I just have a gut feeling at home. Vikings plus 1.5. I think they'll make it close. It's gonna be one of those Sunday afternoon games like, oh, what the hell happened over here? So give me Vikings plus 1.5.
Yeah, I think it depends because McCarthy was limited in practice today, so he has a chance to play. But I would love to see a Carson Wentz Bowl. How fun would that be? I don't like the Eagles, but how fun would that be to have Carson Wentz face off against his former team on a Sunday? I think the Eagles have to win this game though, because if they lose
Oh,
again,
by far, it's a must win for them.
yeah, this is a must win of all proportions for this team. So I'm gonna take the Eagles minus 1.5 in this game. They have to give Saquon the ball more. Because I think that was another thing. I didn't mention that earlier in the recap of the Thursday night game. Saquon started that game off really strong in that one. Had a couple of big runs, and then they just stopped running the ball with him, and they went back to the passing game. I'm not saying, you know, don't throw the ball because they had chances in that game to have big yardage, but you have to give the ball to one of the best running backs in the game. Saquon has to get the ball in this game against the Vikings because the Vikings are going to make tough going to make it hell for Jalen Hurts in this game. So give Saquon the ball. As much as I hate to say that, they have to try to do it on Sunday because, as you and I agree on, it's a must win for this Eagles team. So I got them at 1.5 on that matchup. What's our next matchup?
Let's talk about the Colts going into, I was going to say San Diego, but it's Los Angeles to take on the
What a
Chargers.
game.
Chargers minus 1.5 point favorites at home. 48.5 is the slated over under. Give me the home team. Give me Chargers minus 1.5.
I love this game. I really love this game. I think that it's going to be a lot of points. So because of that, I'm going to take the over in this game. Both offenses are really looking good this season. I think the Chargers should have Quentin Johnston back on the offensive side, which is a big get because they didn't have him last week despite them winning. McConkey showed flashes of what we saw last season too. And despite not having, your top two running backs, Kamani Vidal looked pretty good in that game against Miami on Sunday as well. So maybe they have another running back that could hold the lead for now. But I love the offenses and how they're playing. Their defenses have been up and down so far. So I like the over and this matchup in Los Angeles between the Colts and the Chargers. Another game, Johnson, that might see a lot of points is the one in Dallas. Commanders at the Cowboys. Commanders a 1.5 point favorite on the road. I don't think I've ever seen a number this high in terms of NFL football for over-unders. 55.5 is the over-under for this game. They
You should
are
definitely
expecting
take.
a
You
lot of
should
points.
definitely take that over, but I'm taking Cowboys plus 1.5 here.
Oh, I'm taking the over. I'm taking
There
it.
you go.
If you're going to give me a cow at this point, I think if you are any person of betting interest that is looking at a Cowboys game, the safest bet is always the over for this game. The Cowboys are averaging about 31 points given up defensively so far this season. So you have to just take it because you know their offense is going to score, but you know their defense is not going to stop anything. So I gotta take the over. It's a lot of points. Hopefully it is, because I would like to see a shootout between these two teams. Maybe it ends in a tie again, like the Packers game. So both teams technically lose. So give me the over. I like that. I like that game to be very high scoring game. What do we have in our next matchup?
Our Sunday night game before our doubleheader on Monday is Falcons at 49ers on Sunday Night Football. The 49ers are at home. They are a 2.5 point favorite, and the over-under is 47.5. Niners at home, 49 Sunday Night Football, big time game. Give me Niners minus 2.5. They'll get it done.
You know what? They impressed me so much. I'm not saying they're going to win this game, but I got the Falcons plus 2.5 in this one. If their defense looks anything remotely to what they did against Buffalo on Monday, I really like them in this matchup to keep this game close. The Niners are still trying to get back to health on the offensive side of the ball, and I like what Bijan and Drake London are providing the offensive way. So as long as they do anything remotely close to what they did Monday, I think they've got a shot in this game. So I got Falcons plus 2.5 on Sunday Night Football. And then, as you mentioned, another doubleheader on Monday night. Thankfully, this time around, it's a little bit of a gap in between games, but the second game is very late. So for anyone on the East Coast, they more than likely might not see the rest of the entirety of the game. We'll talk about that in a second.
Don't make me rant on this. Don't make me rant. I already did it.
We already did this. We've already talked about how much we hate the double Monday Night Football. But the first Monday Night Football game of the night is going to be Tampa Bay at Detroit. It is a very good game, though, despite it being double Monday Night Football. Lions minus 5.5, 52.5, the over-under.
Give me Lions minus 5.5 here. I think they're going to maul the Buccaneers at home.
I think there's just so many injuries going on for this Buccaneers team. Unless we get more of a clearance on Mike Evans and company, we know Ibuka's out. If Evans does play in this game, that does help them a bit. But until I find out any further evidence on that being the case, I got to go with Detroit minus 5.5. I think, as I mentioned earlier on, they're going to be very pissed off after what happened in Kansas City. I'm expecting them to make an example in this game against the Tampa Bay team that's playing really, really good so far this season. Then, Johnson, let's go into our second of Monday Night Football games.
It's Texans at Seattle, so this is going to be a late night start, like we mentioned. The Texans are on the road, and the Seahawks are a 3.5 point favorite at home. The over-under slate at 41.5. Yes, you heard that right, 41.5. One of the lowest totals of the week. But give me Texans plus 3.5. They've had the bye week, and they don't know what to. And I think Seattle's a little confused about their backfield. Zach Charbonnet has been terrible this year.
Walker hasn't been any much better either.
But Charbonnet has been historically bad, and they keep on feeding him the ball.
I know.
So either he needs to step it up, or they got to take away touches from him if they want to have a chance of.
This is why
this game.
This is why when we do our fantasy podcasts at the beginning of the season, where I always say to avoid the Seattle backfield because they do stuff like this every single season. There is never a lead back when you know the fact it should be Kenneth Walker. They don't really feed him the ball like that, and then. They both have bad fantasy weeks, so you can't really start them at this point.
Who was the back 4 years ago when Kenneth Walker was should have been getting touches? Yeah, it was Chris Carson.
Yeah, I think it was Chris Carson.
Yeah, they do this it doesn't matter who it is. Whoever their rookie is always going to just steal touches. And it's like, oh, it should be Chris Carson. No, it should be Kenneth Walker. Now it's Kenneth Walker. Now it should be Zach Charbonnet. And when Kenneth Walker eventually leaves in 2 years, it's going to be, oh, it should be Zach Charbonnet. And now it's going to be like, oh, it should be NPC 55, whoever they drafted, because they don't have any continuity up there.
Yeah, don't be surprised.
Texans plus 3.5.
Don't be surprised to take a running back this upcoming draft.
Because it'll be perfect. Kenneth Walker will be a free agent in like 2 years, and then he'll step right into the shoes. So it's perfect. And then guess what? In 2030, it's going to repeat until we die. So,
well, I think we talked about the Commanders game and Cowboys earlier, where that's two high prolific offenses. Even the Chargers Colts game too. This game is a really good game defense wise. There's so many good players on the defensive side of the ball. I'm expecting this to be a low scoring game. And if that's the case, I like the Texans in this game to cover the 3.5 as well. So I will take them plus 3.5. As you mentioned, they're coming off a bye. Extra rest definitely does help you, especially when it comes to a late game, a late start time or kickoff time for this one. And they've won 2 in a row. They're looking a little bit better than what they did earlier in the season. So the question is going to be, can they carry that over from their bye week after winning against the Titans and the Ravens, who right now have been 2 of the worst teams in the league so far. Can they get a big signature win on Monday night? They'll have a shot against Seattle because Seattle, as I mentioned, has been looking good so far. Defensively, their offense has shown some signs of potential, especially with Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think leads the NFL in receiving yards now after Nakua's injury. But yeah, I expect a low-scoring game. I got the Texans plus 3.5 as well to round out week number 7 of the NFL season. Any final thoughts, John?
Just take us home.
Hopefully, you and I have another victory Monday. This will come, or I guess Tuesday, or whenever, depending on whenever we record. But yeah, hopefully, we both are riding the highs of victories once again, and like we did this past week, because it has not been very often for the two of us. So we're enjoying it so far. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. We're now through 6 weeks of this National Football League season. We now head into week number 7. Steelers and Bengals will kick us off tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. We have the Rams and Jaguars in London on Sunday. Big games as well in prime time, as including the Falcons and 49ers on Sunday Night Football. And another doubleheader on Monday night. Tampa Bay and Detroit, Houston and Seattle. We'll recap all of this next week live here on the show. For Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.